of Ontario provide the raw materials for the province's largest and most important industry. Safeguarding the forests is the responsibility of all of us. Government legislation states that all physically fit men, with certain exceptions, may be called upon to fight fires. Men who work in the woods contribute most to safeguarding the forests from fire, protecting their jobs and the vast forest wealth. Firefighting equipment, provided by operating companies and government, kept at strategic points in the operating areas, provides a ready supply of firefighting tools. Special rules for woods workers are followed during the fire season. Aircraft of the Ontario Department of Lands and Forests fly detection patrols and are used to transport firefighting equipment and men to fires. On high ground throughout the north, lookout towers have been erected from which trained observers maintain a constant vigilance over hundreds of square miles of virgin forests and slash. Early detection of forest fire and prompt action in fighting it is the most important feature of fire control. It is becoming more common for operating companies to continue production on a 12-month basis. During the summer months, extra precautions are taken to eliminate as far as possible the danger of fire. Regular patrols are made by fire wardens to all woods operating areas. During the fire season, woods workers roll their own cigarettes. Hot drinks are carried in thermos or vacuum bottles to make lunch fires unnecessary. The men stop and sit down to smoke. They do not smoke while working or walking in the woods. When a fire is detected in the woods, previous training will enable the worker to take immediate action and put into effect the organization which each company should have to fight fire in its area. Too much emphasis cannot be placed on the necessity of fire crew training in camps. When a fire is detected, it should be reported immediately to a strip boss, foreman, or other superior. In the meantime, workers take what action they can with whatever tools are available. The strip boss or foreman directs men in the initial attack in a manner designed to hold the fire from spreading until the arrival of more men and equipment. Often the fire is put under control with a fire line built by hand tools alone. Every woods worker should have firefighting training with hand tools. The attack is concentrated at points where the fire is spreading most rapidly, or fingering. If conditions permit, firefighters should work on the actual head of the fire. Axes, pack cans, and shovels are the tools mainly used. Work is done only to a narrow strip on the outside edge of the fire. Men with pack cans work quickly along the line to stop the fire from spreading rather than to try to put out the whole blaze. Mineral soil is equally effective when properly used. One type of fire line is a shallow trench exposing mineral soil. On reaching it, the fire may die for lack of fuel. In the meantime, other men have been dispatched to the camp fire cache for power pumps, hose, and more hand tools. It is important that this equipment be maintained in such caches to make possible quick transportation by trucks or men. Water sources in the cutting areas should be known in case of fire. A small stream of water can be effectively dammed to supply water for power pumps. Water pack cans or bags should not be filled from the hose line unless it is absolutely necessary. When filling pack cans from a shallow pool, care should be taken to avoid leaves and sediment. Dirty water can clog a pump. The man in charge of the fire locates the trail and coordinates the work of the firefighters. The pump should be set up as close to the level of the water as possible. Make sure that the intake hose is free from pebbles or sand, which, if drawn into the pump, could cause a major breakdown. When possible, a centrifugal-type pump should be primed through the intake hose. A pail placed over the intake screen is a safeguard against foreign objects being drawn into the pump. The training of men to lay and couple hose efficiently is one of the most important phases of suppression work with power pumps. The Department of Lands and Forests, Geraldton District, have developed a packboard attachment for the laying of hose. A single line of hose is laid down from the pump to a point close to the fire line. A Siamese valve is attached. The purpose of a Siamese valve is to allow 2 lines of hose to be used on the fire and to permit additional lengths of hose to be added as required in either line. It may be used to regulate the flow and pressure of water to each line. On a signal from the Siamese operator, the pump man starts the pump. The pump operator must pay close attention to the intake screen after the pump starts. Leaves and grass plug up the intake screen, which could result in damage. If the screen is too close to the surface, air will be drawn into it. This is indicated at the pump by the small whirlpool forming over the intake and at the nozzle end by popping and snapping as the air is expelled through the nozzle. The operator should then lower the screen until this whirlpool disappears. A hose layer, 2 hose handlers, and a nozzle man make up the nozzle crew. A well-trained nozzle crew is necessary in obtaining the full value of power pumps in firefighting. Fire line hose handling should follow a definite pattern. Each member of the nozzle crew has an assigned position which he maintains at all times. This avoids confusion and simplifies training of men. Fuel, wind direction, topography, and humidity are 4 factors which determine the amount of time spent on wetting down each 100 feet of fire line. On the first pass, a narrow strip around the fire is wet to prevent the fire from spreading. On the return pass, a wider strip is wet down to place the fire under control. Hold the fire line established by the nozzle crew. They also work ahead of the nozzle crew for the purpose of knocking down hot spots at points where fire is fingering. Water-packed cans or bags should not be filled from the hose line nozzle or from water thieves unless the fire boss deems it necessary to do so. The nozzle crew apply only sufficient water to hold the fire line and protect the hose line. When lines of hose have surrounded the fire perimeter, the nozzle crews then work back around the fire lines. On this return round, a greater width of fire perimeter is wet down so as to definitely place the fire line under control. Again, proper training of the crew and hose handlers is important to save time. Each member of the nozzle crew retains his position and function. After each length of hose is used on the return round, the hose layer connects the hose into its original position, thus leaving behind the nozzle crew a completely connected hose line. To lay a hose line over a burned area, the hose layer rolls out approximately 35 feet of hose back from the nozzle. He turns and rolls out the remainder toward the nozzle man. The number 2 hose handler remains at the loop formed when the hose layer turns. At all times, it is important that no kinks be allowed to form in the hose line. In using power pump equipment, the first step is to stop the fire from spreading by wetting down a narrow strip around the perimeter. This diagram of a fire shows the strip being widened on each pass until the fire is out. This diagram shows the most commonly used hose lay at the left. This lay is duplicated when 2 pumps are used from a single source of water. The parallel hose lay is used to stop fast-moving fire, which could not be knocked down by a single hose line. In this fire diagram, hand tools are used ahead of the nozzle crews at hot spots and at points where the fire is fingering, to patrol the fire line back to the nozzle and to hold the fire line. These firefighters also keep watch for leaks in the hose line. When hose must be transported to another part of the fire or back to camp after the fire is out, it should be drained to make it lighter to handle and to protect the hose from damage. After draining, the hose is most easily handled if it is rolled into melons. Immediately after the hose returns to camp after being used, it is cleaned, thoroughly dried, couplings checked, re-rolled and stored for future use. In addition to the packboard method of laying out hose, there is the Eden hose carrier, a device used to tie the rolls of hose for storage and to roll it out on the fire line. A short piece of wood or the string with which the roll of hose is tied can also be used for unrolling hose. High water pressure at the nozzle is desirable for efficient fire suppression. The knowledge of the proper use of nozzle tips to obtain the best results should be included in the basic training of all firefighters. The Geraldton district of the Department of Lands and Forests brazes the 2 nozzle tips together so that both sizes will always be available when the nozzle is in use. The picture has been shown to help you play your part in fighting forest fires. Your knowledge of firefighting may someday save human life and the forest in which you work. The easiest way to fight forest fire is to prevent it from starting. Do your bit, be trained, and keep fire out of the woods.